Hi everybody, Diana here at Sew in Common. Welcome in. It is Wednesday and I thought, wow, it's a good day for a bonus video. So today we are going to talk about actually one of the individual blocks that's in this month's Crossover Star Square. So you have the file for it. As long as you picked up your free copy of the February block of the month, then you have the square file that we're going to talk about today. If you need it, oh, there it is. Sorry, couldn't find it. Go to my website, www.sewincommon.com, and pick up the February block of the month. It's got your design files for all your major embroidery machines. You just pick out the one from the file once you download it to your computer. You've got the written instructions as well. So that's all you need, completely free to use. So go grab it while it's still there. And we are going to be talking today specifically about fussy cutting, right? So one of the blocks in this month's square is perfect for fussy cutting. In fact, it's one of my favorites. So let's switch over to our main camera. Here we go. And that block is the diamond in a square, right? So a diamond in a square block is really great because it can really allow you to frame and what do I want to say? Frame and show off this center fabric. So if you're just doing fabrics like we see here, you can really show off what's in the center. But if you use it for fussy cutting, like we've done here with this beautiful fabric from Tula Pink, then you can really use that center square for your fussy cut square, and bingo, you've got really a beautiful block. You could do something like that as accent blocks within your quilt, or you could do a whole quilt full of things with different fussy cut pieces in the center. So the diamond in the square is one of my favorite blocks for using when we fussy cut. So we're going to make one today, but first of all, I want to show you how I got to the whole fussy cut piece. So here is another beautiful fabric, and yes, it's from Tula Pink because guys, I'm a total Tula Pink fangirl. But you could do this with any fabric, excuse me. Pardon me. Let me take a quick sip of water. Great. You could use any fabric that you love that you want to fussy cut. And if you're new to quilting, let me just tell you what fussy cutting is. I bet you've figured it out. But fussy cutting is basically picking out a focal point in your fabric and cutting around it so that when it is in your overall square, it's the part your eye goes to. It's the part you look at. It's the part really in your quilt that tells the story that you're telling in your quilt as well. So this month we talked about in week 2, the inspiration video for week 2, we talked about using a template to kind of see if something had scale, proper scale and that sort of thing. Well, we also talked about it for fussy cutting. And so if you have been a quilter for a very long time, or you have come to quilting from the more traditional quilting with our sewing machine or hand quilting, you'll know what these are. And these are actually 2 of my favorite templates when I do traditional quilting, because with traditional quilting, you've got to do what's called squaring up your squares so that they're all nice and square and the same size. So you have these, what we call square up templates. Okay. But with quilting on your embroidery machine, you get a perfectly squared up block every single time. So we really don't have a need for these except when we want to use them for fussy cutting. So I don't ever get anything if I can't use it for more than one thing, because truly you know, it's a money saver that way. It's more value if we do it that way. And I have less stuff in my studio, which I know my husband appreciates. But for your diamond in a square, when you're going to fussy cut that piece in the center, you really need something to help you get that square, because you're cutting out that square. It's the first thing we lay down when we do the stitch out. So I used I believe this is the 6-inch square up ruler that I had, and I used it to fussy cut my piece. I can see through it, so that's perfect. And I can, because of the lines, I can measure and figure out just where my center is. So perfect for that. But my square isn't going to be this big. It's going to be this big. So I need to make sure that my little flower here can fit up pretty much in that square in the center. So I took my smaller square up ruler and I placed it on here, because it will tell me whether or not that's going to fit in there. And it might cut off a tiny bit on the edges. That's okay. You're still going to see that big, beautiful flower. Okay, so I used the 2 different squares that way to figure out where I was going to fussy cut. So if you have these, you can use them. If not, make yourself take a piece of heavy cardstock or cardboard, even something that's going to last, or template plastic, that thin template plastic, and cut yourself some squares about the sizes you need and use those as your fussy cut rulers. Okay, no need to go buy these if you have something else that you can use. And the one reason I love the template plastic is because you can see through it. I know you can get them at your craft stores or fabric store, anywhere like that. And then I chose a solid this time that I'm going to end up putting on my edges. And then it'll be all trimmed down and I'll have a beautiful fussy cut block. Now it's not going to end up being that big. It'll be smaller, but see how pretty that will turn out. Okay, so that is the whole idea of fussy cutting and how easy it is to do with the diamond in the square block. So why don't we go to my other camera here. There we go. And let's stitch this out and see how it turns out. Okay, so I'm all set up here. I'm using my 6x6 hoop, but this would fit in a 5x7 hoop. That's what you have. Because remember, it is the center square for this month's crossover star. I've got my design all up. I'm going to stitch out my center block. This is the placement line. This is going to tell me where to place my little flower piece. And I should be using black thread, but because I want to, so you can see it better, but I really want to keep this. So I'm using my Dove Gray that I love to use for piecing. So I'll just, you can see it. It goes right along there. All right, now I have to go back one step because I'll have to stitch it out again when I tack this down. So I want to put my fabric in here. And I can feel where my square is, so I know that I'm getting it in the right place. Now I could, if I wanted to, I could actually use a template on here to make sure it's in the right place, but that's okay for this time. What I can do, well, yeah, I can feel this in here. I know it's going to be in there pretty well. Actually, I need to move this down a little. I'll get it in here. I know I'm going to have a little bit outside of it. I just want to make sure I got it pretty even. There we go. That sounds good. Feels pretty good. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and stitch that out, or we're actually going to tack it down. And it's okay if you cut part of your fussy cut piece off. That happens a lot. But that turned out really well. My flower's all in there. I'm just missing a little bit of the leaf around the edge. That's not a problem at all. And I'm going to get my my scissors. I'm going to take this off the hoop. Let's go ahead and go back to my other camera. There we go. And we're going to trim this because obviously I don't need this much around. So I'm trimming, an eighth of an inch or so away from the line, the stitch line. And this is how you do your diamond in a square for the crossover star. Now, with that crossover star, if you wanted to, you could easily do a fussy cut on that diamond in a square and have that be a real focal point for the center of this month's February block. That would look fantastic. Okay, let's just finish snipping off here. That's fine. Get rid of that. Now I'm going to place my, according to this, I'm going to do this one first. I'm going to place it. I always like to see a little bit of that fabric underneath. And I've given myself generous pieces of fabric for trimming and all so that I know that I have enough there. So this one is going to tack it down. And I'm just going to go ahead and put myself a little line of my fabric glue. Today I'm using a, whoops, you're not seeing that because I didn't flip that back over. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, whoops. There we go. Now you can see it. So I just stitched that on, and then I put myself a little piece of fabric or a little line of fabric glue. Today I'm using the Sew Line glue. I had been using a Fons and Porter one. Either works. Those are all fine. They're all great. And I'm going to flip this one. And instead of using my seam roller, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a finger press today. Sometimes I finger press, sometimes I use my roller. And then we will go ahead and stitch this down. Okay. Now we'll do piece number 2, or triangle number 2. Again, I'm laying it down and making sure I see just a little bit of the under fabric, or the fabric from my diamond square in the center. Give myself a little mark of glue. Here we go. I'm going to take it out really quickly so I can flip this. On. Now we will stitch this down. Excuse my voice a little bit. I've been out a lot this week doing a lot of running outside again because the weather got really nice. And now we're literally under a severe flood warning. So my voice and all is kind of going south a little bit. There we go. We're going to now do our third corner. This goes so fast when you're not trying to talk. The whole stitch out takes 2 minutes according to my machine over here. So that's pretty nice. But I like to bring you all ideas of different ways you can use some of the blocks that you already have. And I know that some of you have been quilters for a long time and are just starting to do piecing with your embroidery hoop because, everybody has their own reason. Maybe you've got tender hands these days. I mean, I've had carpal tunnel surgery on both of my hands. So, although I can still quilt in a traditional way, taking stress off my hands, that's a good thing. Once you hit your 60s, like I am, you definitely want to use the least stress possible. Okay, and we just have one more corner and we're done with our beautiful a diamond in a square block that has been fussy cut with this beautiful tulip pink fabric. And today I am using my dream machine. I'll be getting my Stellaire back in a few weeks, but we know what the problem is. If you check out last week's video, I explained to you what the problem is, because some of you might end up with this problem too when piecing in the hoop, and what we found out could help you. I'll explain again if I don't forget here at the end. Because when we figured it out, I thought, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. All right, I'm going to grab some tape here. Now, the last thing we do is always stitch all the way around. That way, all of these intersections are nice and attached to one another. And so I just, before we do that final stitch around, I'm putting a little piece of my tape, my fabric tape, over those intersections so that my foot does not get caught on these pieces of fabric. I mean, sometimes I forget and it does, and it's easy to stop your thing and just keep going and fix it. But when I remember, I use that tape, this tape trick, and it really works. Now, this is a Metaphor tape that I told you about before. And the Metaphor tape I told you about before was not my favorite. It was not made for sensitive skin, which would make it more fabric friendly because less use of chemicals. However, I found this Metaphor tape is for sensitive skin, and it still has that really easy way to rip the fabric. So, or to come off to rip and to come off the fabric. Let's bring this back under my other camera and we'll finish this out. Okay, so here we are. We're back under our main camera. Let's just, this is why everybody loves that other Metaphor tape, is because it just comes off slick as you please. Now, I don't care what tape you're using. When you're peeling tape off your fabric, be a little gentle because you are just working with a run stitch and we don't want to rip that run stitch out. Would be easy enough to fix, but why have to do it twice if you don't need to, right? So, but I like this because it does clean, but really clearly. So I love paper tape. I use the Kimberbell paper tape. I love it, but I did find this Metaphor for sensitive skin finally, and I really do like how this comes apart, how you comes off the roll really easily, and it just comes off of my stitching really easily. Okay, so now I will just take this out and we'll trim it down. Pop this right out of my hoop. There we go. Now I'll bring in my ruler and my rotary cutter, just like we would do with any of our other blocks. I'm lining my 1/4 inch line of my ruler up right on my stitched line, and I'm going to cut that right off, and I will just go around all 4 sides, and then I'll have that perfect seam allowance so that when I sew these together with the other blocks like it, or whatever I end up using this for, then it will be perfect. I'll have that perfect line, which will be the line I use for my 1/4 inch. Because remember, with quilting in the hoop, with piecing in the hoop, you do not need a 1/4 inch foot. You don't need a special foot for your machine to do the quilting. It's all built in. So there is my beautiful, it should go that way. There is my beautiful fussy cut rose. Isn't that pretty? So then when I go to stitch this together, let me bring in another 5-inch. So if I were going to stitch those two together, they would fold over. I know I've shown you before, but for all of our new folks, and we have a lot of new folks in the community now, and I am thrilled to death over that. I can't tell you how much I love the fact that you all are joining in. I've loved talking to you all this week. Whenever you contact me privately through my email, I love talking with you all. So, and I love having you here in the community, in the group. So right here is that stitched line. So because this overall crossover square won't fit in your hoop, right? Because it's 15 by 15 inches, we're sewing these together on our sewing machine, but that's the only sewing machine sewing we're doing. So it's really not much, and it's quite easy. And you don't need a 1/4 inch foot. You don't need any kind of special tools for doing that, because what you're going to do is drop your needle by just kind of use your hand crank and get it right there on that stitch line, and then use the keys on your machine and tap it over just one stitch to the inside of this stitched line, and then just follow it all the way down. And when you do, and you unfold it and press it, you won't see that stitch line. That's why I have you move it in that one space. And I talk about that more in one of my past videos, but you know, in case you haven't seen those, I want to show folks. But that is how we, oops, a little piece of tape left there. There, got that off. That is how you can use your diamond in a square for fussy cutting. Let's go back to our main page now. So what did you all think of that? Pretty easy, right? So here I have, this one I did in a much bigger hoop, right? Because it's a bigger block. But I love how that one turned out. And because this is all Tula and all Tula fabrics go together, I could put a bunch of these around the edge. Oh, so pretty. I love her stuff. I am, like I said, truly a Tula fangirl. But I hope you all enjoyed seeing that and how you can use, so it's this block right here. So this is our crossover star for February. It's that block right there, the diamond in a square. Perfect for fussy cutting. So I hope you all enjoy. I know a couple of you have already done the crossover square and sent me pictures. So let me remind you, this coming Sunday is our week 4 Q&A live, and I'm going to share with you the project for February's block of the month. Now remember, all of our blocks we will end up putting in a quilt at the end of the year, but I don't want you to have to wait to have some fun with them. So at the end of each month, you get a project to use that month's block in, plus blocks from the previous month. So you're going to see that on Sunday. You might even get a peek at March's block, which will come out the next week, but I like to give you that little sneak peek. And then we will have our Q&A live as well. So please send me your questions in now if you have them, or come and join us for the Q&A live and ask your questions. I can't wait to meet with you all at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that would be 3 p.m. on the East Coast, it would be noon out on the Pacific time zone, and 1 p.m. Mountain Time. I think I got that right. And if you're elsewhere in the world, please look it up online. You want to find out what your time is compared to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Like, I know my folks in the UK, my friends are, I think, 6 or 7 hours ahead of us right now. So, but I look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. We'll have a great time. And until then, remember to get your block pattern. You can still pick up January's as well at sewuncommon.com. If you need to contact me still anytime, you can contact me at diana@sewuncommon.com. And please, if you like this video or any of our other videos, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and become a part of this great community, because we have lots of fun. I'm trying to share with you over 50 years of quilting knowledge, but now brought to the embroidery machine. So for all of us who want to quilt, but we don't want to do it all on the sewing machine or at all on the sewing machine, we can now do it on our embroidery machine. And I'll tell you what I tell you every time we get together. Go sew life beautiful, my friend. Make some beautiful quilt blocks this week. I hope you're working on some beautiful quilted projects. Until next time, bye for now, everybody.